All right. Hello, folks. Welcome to, On This Hill, a podcast from Church on the Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to be here. I
Yeah.
love it.
You're
Yeah.
sitting in the Bruce chair.
And then Bruce chair. Oh
Yep.
man, let me sit straight down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Linda are out on vacation. I think
Yeah.
Florida. Isn't that what they said?
Yeah, he's visiting his sister, I believe.
Yep. Yeah. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So I asked you to come in and, how was your summer? I was on sabbatical. I was gone. Was summer okay for you?
Yeah, the summer was good. It was busy.
Yeah.
It is probably the best time to do anything regarding the family.
Mhm.
People have time, people have less competition
Yeah.
of sports, school. So we did few events at the church. It was
Yep.
good. We did a picnic in the park. We did the
Yeah.
riverfront church. We
Yeah.
did
Silver Falls.
Silver Falls.
Yeah. I was sorry I missed the Silver Falls thing. I
Yeah,
really
we
loved
had
doing that.
can baptism there.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. Family playing, sitting around.
Do you get nervous, or does your wife get nervous around the falls? Like when my kids were little, I was a little bit nervous around the falls because I mean that first, that main fall, that's a drop off. I'm always like, "Where's the kids?"
I walk. I always walk close by
Yeah,
and thinking about what may happen.
Yeah.
So I start to hold the shirt of my son.
yeah,
I was like, my imagination,
Yeah.
it goes in 1,000 stories before.
yeah,
Remember Superman on the what was that dam that in Vegas?
yeah.
Where the kids fall. So,
That's the old
yeah.
Superman, right?
You know, when I went through Vegas, I have to go and see there because
Did you
it was
really?
watching the
Oh, that's
movie. I
fun.
was like, I want to see this place.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
fun.
You're right. Summer is a good time to do family stuff.
Yeah.
You live close to the lake, so did your family
Yeah.
get on the lake?
We did a few times to the lake. Yeah,
that's nice.
it was good to
Yeah.
you just go jump in the water
Mhm.
and refresh and then come home.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah.
We were talking before we started recording about family a little bit and how many cousins you have. You're the oldest of a lot of
I
cousins.
am the oldest male
Yeah,
from. My mom has 8
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, so we are about 30.
yeah.
Yeah, cousins like.
Yeah, I think there's something like that in my family because
Yeah.
my dad has there's 6 in his side of the family. There's 6 on my mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of cousins.
And we grew up like almost next to each other.
Oh yeah,
and seeing
that's
each other.
nice. So they tease you about being older. I'm going somewhere with this because if you're the oldest one.
Yeah, they tease me about being the oldest, but the fun is my cousins are all losing their hair, and they're teasing me being the oldest and
Yeah.
adopted because I'm not losing hair yet, I believe.
Now,
Yeah.
are you mean to them about them losing their hair?
Oh, I joke with them.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
about that. And
yeah. So
about
we're
not getting old, yeah.
You've started a ministry here at Church on the Hill.
Yes.
To seniors.
Yeah,
But you're not one.
I'm not one.
No, you're
Yeah,
you're
it
a long
calls
ways away.
Senior legacy. Yeah.
Okay, senior legacy.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So, it is. I used to say it is like I'm closing a circle where we have a great kids ministry.
Yeah.
We have a great youth and high school ministry. Our young adults are thriving.
Yeah.
Our families are doing well. When they join in a life group, we have young moms with life group. We have aunties.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
parenting. We even have fosters and adopters, like the replanted. But then I'm like, yeah, but we don't have anything
Yeah.
for seniors.
Yeah, we haven't for a while
Yeah.
at Church on the Hill. It's been an empty spot.
And they used to, when we hear stories of, they used to do potlucks,
Yep.
they used to do things. So, but then I would start searching around. Salem Heights does a great ministry.
Yeah.
I went there and
Oh,
I
great.
visit them, so how they run. And I met with the pastor who runs, and I like what he said. It was Pastor Justin who started. I think it was like 5-6 years ago, and his idea was, this generation, it was the generation who was our Sunday school when we were kids. They were busy at church. I think like the energy, the age, and then everything. So then with time,
Yeah.
it is changed. And I remember one of the ladies in our church. She said, Daniel, our generation, it feels like we are fading away because we don't have much the energy, the time, the things to we used to do when we serve.
Right.
And now, but then I'm like, no, but we can close this loop.
Yeah.
So we started was the first. We're doing once a month from now. First Saturday in September we did our first. We have about 18.
That's great.
Seniors would come together,
Yeah.
sit, share a meal.
Yeah. And you have a curriculum of sorts?
We are doing a curriculum called Finishing Well. It is a great material, the teaching, and it is a video. So we watch the video for 15 minutes, and then there's few questions. So we talked, and then we share a meal together. We have it's a great time of a fellowship.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So you were a missionary. You are a missionary now, but you've been a missionary in other places besides the U.S. You grew up in Brazil, and I know South Africa. Where else have you?
We went to New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I assume you've probably done other short-term outreaches other places?
We did 6 months in the Philippines. We did a training there.
Okay.
And then, Brazil.
So
and here,
I'm just curious. I'm asking because different cultures treat aging differently. Were there any cultures, maybe the one you came from, or South Africa or New Zealand, that you think like, wow, they do this well. They care about seniors well. They have a certain amount of honor or something on that. Have you noticed that in other cultures?
So growing up in Brazil, it was very important to call an elderly person sir or miss. You don't use their first name before using this, and all respect.
Yeah.
In your family, not just the elder, but your uncles, you ask for their blessing every time you see them.
Okay.
You hold hands with them, look at them in the eyes, and say, "Would you bless me?" And they say, "Bless you."
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like every time I see my uncles and aunt, my grandparents, we have to do this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
you hold a hand and they would just simply say, "I bless you."
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
neat.
all. Yeah. And
so you have to have a good relationship.
Yeah,
you can't be at odds with one another and them say.
Yeah, no, it is. I think our culture is a very family oriented.
Yeah.
So grandparents are the nuclear of the family. So it's almost you look for grandparents for advice and everything.
Yeah.
But it changed. The sad it's changed. Culture, people. When you start valuing, that's my fear. When you start using all your resource and your ideas, like, no, the next generation, we tend to forget that generation, the past one. And then, but I love the one day I heard this man in New Zealand. And New Zealand, when we were there, we noticed this too.
Yeah.
I remember the one of my islander friend, he said, "Daniel, my hard time to raise missionaries like Maori, one of the island, is because they have this culture of honor to their parents. They can't leave their parents. They have to be around. So, and most of the cultures we being, this is a very
that's good.
Very important.
Yeah.
Grandparents.
So looking from the outside in, I mean, you've been in the U.S. for a while now. It seems like maybe there's a weakness here in the U.S. of honoring elderly. I feel like we're a very youth-oriented culture. We really celebrate youth.
Yeah.
Like we love young people. We celebrate young people, but we don't celebrate the elderly or seniors very often.
I see. I can be wrong, but I see the celebration of strength.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you see two guys talking about their truck, and they were talking about how many weight.
Yeah.
It's always the power.
Yeah.
And then I think when goes into a elderly, you're not gonna do the strength, but you miss the wisdom that they have.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's almost like it's almost like this celebration of strength, and so that why we work a lot of how we struggle with. I know you can't pull 300 pounds. But I'm sure you know how to teach me to do this without, hurt my back, because you have a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
I was joking with Bruce. There's a saying in Brazil, when you don't got fool into a situation, someone say, hey, did you hear so and so? He got into the scheme. We have the saying in Brazil, I didn't fall for that because I'm an old monkey.
Because I'm an old monkey.
Yeah. And then I remember we had this place in Brazil, in my hometown.
Can you say it in Portuguese?
Macaco velho. Yeah. The reason they say this is because when people goes into there, we have a lot of areas that there's monkeys in the trees.
Sure.
It's like saving forests, like downtown. And people goes there and start feeding the monkeys. And then the younger monkeys, without a lot of wisdom, they go down to the food. And some of them got caught. And then where the people get. So our older monkey knows that this is a trick. So what he does, he climbs up on the tree and he watch and he wait the person to leave. When everybody leaves, he goes down and he grabs the food and goes up there and eat.
Yeah.
So then we have this saying. I remember my dad and my uncles, we always use this example of like, I'm an old monkey. You're not going to fool me.
That's good.
So I hope nobody calls each other old monkey now. But I see this. It's like, it's a. I remember here, I called the first person I say, yes, sir. And he thought I was mocking him.
Right.
And I have to culturally teach him. It's like, man, if my mom sees me calling you, even Bruce.
Right, yeah.
If my mom
if they're
sees
just
me
a
call
little bit
Bruce,
older, you just give them respect.
My mom will grab my ears. I'm 45. She's still going to look at me. So every time he say, hey, Daniel, and I say, hey, sir, it's not... It is not like, oh, I'm worshiping. Yeah. But there is a respect.
Yeah, I appreciated that in China as well. I saw a real deference for the elderly and caring for seniors, and it didn't have to be someone in their 90s. If they were just older than you, then you treated them different. There's a hierarchy. There was an assumption. You've got a little bit more time on this planet than I have. You know more than I do. Yeah. And so I'm gonna defer to you. What do you think we should do? Yeah. Matter of fact, I led a team one time to India. I think I was probably 25 or so at the time, pretty young to be leading a group of people anywhere. And there was a man on the team who was in his 50s, and he'd retired early from being a banker. And we would go and work with local churches and do things, and the local pastors and churches wouldn't talk to me. They would go talk to him. They would not talk to me. And at first I was like, I'm the leader of this team. Yeah. And then I realized they know something I don't know. And they realize this man has the most, and we're not going to disrespect him by talking to this young kid about what to do. Yeah. And so him and I partnered together, and I'm like, hey, this is what I think we're supposed to do. Can you talk to the pastors? But I couldn't go around their customs, and I realized it didn't at first because I was probably arrogant and proud. But I realized at first, they're right. Yeah, this man does have experience that I need to listen to. Yeah, whether I've got the title of leader or not. Yeah, and it was really good. It taught me something when I was young. That it's not so much about the position, but the experience makes a big difference.
Yeah, when we were missionaries in Africa. So I would take teams from Brazil, and we were going to Mozambique. We speak Portuguese like they speak. Yeah. So it was much easier to do the outreach. So I would take a team with 10, 12 pastors. We would travel. Yeah. And I was much younger. This was over 10 years ago. So I didn't have a lot of gray hair. Right. So a lot of the pastor would not talk to me. Yeah. And he would look in the team. Yeah. There was one of the pastor has more gray hair, and then they will talk to him, and the pastor say, no, you need to talk to Daniel. And the first they will look me up from the top down, and then they will you hesitate to speak to me because I didn't have a gray hair. Yeah. And for them it's like, how much experience you have, because you look young.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm like, I wish I could have more gray hair back there.
Yeah.
You know?
Now you wish you could have less.
No, I wish I have less. Yeah, but it is an interesting thing, and even like as a church, or is in the kingdom of God, there's this war of Israel, where you see 4 generations fighting.
Right.
You see Moses in the mountain with Aaron, and then you see Joshua, and then you see the young people. They were all in. And then it's like, if Moses there, his hands goes down, they start losing down here. And I think I know it's just also like a soldier looking back, and it's like, we have Moses with us too. So I love this, generations coming together to accomplish what God is doing, and it's amazing. It's like,
I think you're dead on, and it's what we're aiming for at Church in the Hill. I think we're getting there. We're better and better, but to connect those generations and find those connections, like each one. A lot of times when you're really young, like say you're working in middle school ministries, or you're a middle schooler in middle school ministries, they don't look up to someone in their 50s and 60s.
Oh yeah,
they look up.
It's too far.
Yeah, it's too far.
Yeah.
They can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
They seem 100 years old to them.
Yeah.
When a middle schooler looks at me, they see an ancient man.
Yeah.
But when they see my daughter who's 23, they're like, oh, she's super cool.
Yeah.
I want to be like her.
Yeah.
Like, what is she doing? What is she like? And I want to like the things that she likes. And she has earned a little bit of wisdom between middle school and 23. Grace, my one daughter's 23 years old. She's earned so she can go, backwards and work with a middle schooler and help them, through some stuff. She's working in high school ministries actually right now. But they also need those connections. Man, I loved, my kids got to be around their great-grandmother and great-grandfather for a little while before they passed away. So they were still pretty little, but they knew them and knew them well. And they would, great-grandma would even watch them at times. She couldn't hardly, get around. She used a walker, and they would be climbing all over her walker, like monkey bars and stuff. And she'd tell them stories about going to church in the back of a wagon. Yeah. Like literally a horse-drawn wagon to get to Sunday church. Yeah. And that was so far from their experience. They couldn't even imagine that. They'd never ridden in a wagon, never ridden on a horse. And she's talking about it was normal. That, we'd put a bunch of hay and a bunch of blankets in the back, and all of us kids would get in there, and then Dad would ride us to church in a wagon.
Like, there's a man in our church, Bob. When last year at the men's retreat, we were talking about getting to know each other and who has the most interesting story. Yeah. So people say, I did this, I did that. Yeah. And then he's like, I was in the ship that pick up the Apollo 8.
What?
Yeah.
He was in the ship?
He was in the ship.
That picked up Apollo 8?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, I saw that we were pick up the guys and put in there, the astronauts, and I saw them coming out. Wow. And then I'm like, you're the coolest person I have seen. Yeah. So I sat there with him the whole afternoon. I was like, how was it that? And then I think after that, he even went to Vietnam. But he's telling the story. But I could see in his eyes, it's like, are you interested in that? And I'm like, yeah. And for the next month, I keep like, Bob, it's like, you're part of history. Yeah. It's like we the accomplish of humanity on this thing. And he's like, my eyes saw it. One day he come in with all the pictures. And he has the pictures of the guys coming out.
Oh man, I'd
the
like
picture
to see
of inside. Yeah. It is so cool.
I think you're hitting on something that's worth talking about. And that is I think some people might wonder, like, well, how do I honor someone who's older than me? What does that look like? Because it's nice to say sir and ma'am. Yeah. That's a wonderful thing to do. Yeah. But I don't know that really touches people's heart that deeply. Yeah. It's nice. It's a nicety. But when you ask questions, it means
it's the
so
keys
much.
To their heart.
Yeah. And it's also, it blesses them because, like, they feel cared for. Like, you want to know about that? Yeah. But it blesses you because you find out stuff you wouldn't know otherwise. I learned a lot from Trisha's great-grandmother, getting to be around her and her I was Trisha's grandmother and grandfather. It was my kids, great grandmother, grandfather. But getting to talk to them and find out about their life, and it was amazing. I loved to hear their stories, and going to church and revival and what that looked like, and like I said, riding to church in the back of a wagon. They literally, there's a phrase in the U.S., it's kind of an old-fashioned, old-timey phrase. We'd say, the good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. And she was like, yeah, we could go to church, the good Lord willing, and if the creek didn't rise, if the creek rose, we couldn't go to church.
We couldn't go to church, yeah.
Like, oh, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a saying.
Yeah, I don't know if it's normal, but I'm always fascinated with this.
Yeah.
With like, tell me, you watch a movie for 1945.
Yeah.
But then when you watch the movie, they try to represent how much the cars, most of it is a scenario like the driving downtown.
Right. Yeah.
But then when you had the chance to talk to someone that was alive there or was growing up there,
right.
and then he can tell, I think then he can tell you the emotions, the feelings, like the same when the movie Jesus Revolution come in, and then you like, man, this great, and then you hear people say, I was there.
Yeah.
I was one of the person who got saved in that moment.
Yeah.
I got baptized there.
Yep.
And
even Bruce, who's not that much older than myself, 15 years or so, but he has that experience that I didn't have. I was born after that, and he was born again in that.
In that moment.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I had a chance to drive him to the airport once, and he telling me the story. It's wild.
Yep.
You should do a podcast with Bruce.
Yeah,
just telling that story.
Yeah, that hearing those stories when I was young is really more than anything what made me want to be in ministry. My mom and grandma and others would tell stories about things that happened at church. Prayer times that just turned into revival or manifestations of the Holy Spirit, and literally seeing things in the Spirit, and I'm like, man, I want that. Like, I want that to happen to me, to my generation, and it made me want to move into ministry. Wow.
Awesome.
Well, maybe we can go backwards just a step, because something we were talking about actually connects to what we preached on Sunday. This will come out after Sunday. You talked about being an old monkey and not falling for traps. And that's kind of what we preach on Sunday, is the lie is stolen water is sweet. The idea that, sometimes we're offered something and the promise is, it can stay a secret. Like, hey, don't worry, you can participate in this and no one will know. And then we're fooled into it like a young monkey, but then we're trapped. We're caught. And maybe we could just talk about that for a minute, unpack a little bit more the sermon there. Because I think I've never met anyone who couldn't relate to that. I've certainly been caught in sin before. Maybe it was minor, maybe it was major. I don't know if there's a minor sin, actually, every breaking of God's law, but something I thought like, oh, this is just little, but then you do it and you're stuck. Yeah.
Talking about monkeys.
Yeah.
I had a missionary friend who lives in the Amazon, and they say the way they caught monkeys is because unfortunately, the tribe eat the monkeys and not going
unfortunate
into that
for the monkey,
for the monkey. But they would do this box with a hole, and they would put a nut inside or something.
Okay.
That the monkey will come, shake it, and make sound.
Yeah.
So, but the hole is very enough for the hand of the monkey goes in.
Yeah.
So when he grab it, his hand is full now.
Yeah.
And then he has to put it back.
Yeah.
And he can't. The only way for freedom is to let go. But then he is so curious to what is inside.
He won't let go.
He won't let go, and then he get caught.
Even when he sees people coming?
The people coming. My friend say, Daniel, he's panicking, screaming, and he knows I'm going to get caught. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to let go. And then if they let go, he escapes, he runs.
Yeah.
If not. And I remember it always kept in this with me.
Yeah. Don't like the sound of that, because it does sound like us.
It is like, but it's
all we have to do is let go, but we won't let go.
But there's things that you're like, just like, it is the there's this blessing that God create us to explore. But that also, if it is not redeemed by God, we become the curious monkey that doesn't let go of things because we think like, how I'm going to live without this?
Curiosity killed the cat, we say.
Yeah. But at the same time, it is a freedom of, and I love that we were praying this before as we prepare the mess, is to understand, do you know, like, I think growing up, if our experience of doing something wrong or being caught, it was a negative.
Right. Yeah.
I remember like my first and the last story, it was I stole a lot of money from my dad in one day. It was enough to enjoy the day. It was the best day of my life, turning to the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Because the amount of money I got, I went and I spent the day buying food for my friends. It was like an amazing day.
Yeah.
We even bought like a set, the kids like a cop hat, a plastic gun, and we play police, but then I have to throw it in the garbage because I could not come in.
Because how could
in
you
a
explain
home.
how
where do you
I
found
bought
this? But my dad, he was awake when I thought he was sleeping, and then he was awake. And then he saw me and he wanted to see what I was going to do.
Oh, really? So
he let me go.
Wow.
And then he waited me coming back.
Yeah.
And now this is a culture. I know it would be shocking for different cultures, but when I got home, I had this thing of, in a way, turning around my house. I found this rose. A piece of rose. I don't know who I think the devil put it there. And then I found this rose, and it's like pretending nothing happened. Walk into my house, and I say, Dad, this rose we can use we have a fish tank that needs a new rose for the air pump. And then my dad said, come to my room and bring the rose. And I'm like...
Wait, you're talking about a hose?
Yeah, hose.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
And then he ended up spanking me with that.
Yeah.
But he had a conversation with me first. I know this is...
Did you know when he said, come to my room and bring the hose?
I realized I was in trouble.
Yeah.
And then he did not even have a time to say I'm sorry, because he said, I know what you did, and I saw you doing it. Come, and then let's talk. So my dad has a talk first.
Yeah.
He explained to me the reason what he's going to do. Why he was going to do. And we spoke I thought he spoke so long, I thought he forgot that he would spank me. But then I remember, this is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We lost change. And he didn't do this in anger.
Yeah.
He was, I saw tears come out because he doesn't want to do it. But he was like, I need to do this before it become a habit. And then one day is the police come here to our home to say, hey, we caught your son, because and this is how everybody starts.
Yeah. I know so many young men that I wish their dad would have intervened in that way, because it was the police who showed up.
But then what I was trying to say is, then when we come into God, our experience will be, if I let go of the nut in the box, God will be so angry and mad at me. As if God is not looking at our hand inside of the box.
Yeah.
But when we understand God, I saw this week, a man said to me, I always thought grace, it's a merit favor. And I know it is.
Sure, yeah.
But someone say, but another definition of grace, it is God wants to turn you to look more like Jesus.
Yes, yeah.
And then I'm like, even if it has to have discipline, if we having to have like a serious talk, a grace of, okay, I'm going to let you do this, but if I keep letting you just with grace, you're never going to change. But now if I call you, hey, let's talk about this.
Yep.
And then if you feel exposed in the beginning, but then you feel relieved afterward, because then grace will say, I don't. It's like, remember the story of the woman caught in adultery. I always think about when Jesus picked her up, look at her in the eyes, and so go and sin no more. I think that probably image of Jesus looking her and say, go and sin no more. It haunted her in a good way.
Yeah.
And then every time a man come and say, hey, and she's like, I can't.
Yeah.
I will not do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to face Jesus again. You know, I don't want to disappoint that.
Yeah. That's what makes that so strong. Like someone being disappointed in me who doesn't love me doesn't really hurt.
Oh, yeah.
But if my father said, I'm disappointed in this behavior, I don't want you to ever do this again. Like that was like, because I knew how deeply he loved me.
Yeah.
Like he provided for me. He cared for me. My life was nothing without him, because my life was dependent on him.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it out of obligation. He did it out of love.
Yeah.
I had a good father. I had a good mother.
Yeah.
They had their flaws like everyone, but they loved me and they provided for me. So when they said, if a teacher who I already knew hated me, and just didn't like their job and didn't like teaching and didn't like me, and they were upset with me, kind of made me laugh. Like I don't care.
I will.
But if my dad said like, I don't ever want to do this again. I don't want to hurt my dad who loves me so much and does so much for me. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
I know it will break his heart.
Yeah.
And
there's that connection again, going back to, people who have just lived a little bit more life than us, especially the ones who have lived more life than us and are, they're our caregivers, our mom, our dad, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles. They're the ones that have, man, that deserves so much honor. I think we were discussing how, we don't have a culture of honor in the U.S., not a deep enough one for those who are older than us. And I see that in a lot of different ways, but when I see it in fathers, when I see it for fathers, it really breaks my heart. And a lot of times I think we have a culture that celebrates romance and romanticism and love, and that's good. That's great. That's fantastic. But fathers don't tend to be those things. They love in different ways. They love by providing. They love by laying their life down. They love by caring. A good father does. And I think sometimes we don't recognize that like we should. We don't recognize like, hey, you've literally, your life is shorter because you worked so hard to care for me. Like you've given part of your life up for me. So hearing stories about fathers always gets me.
I think there's also like, there was a group of their generation that the way they loved, it was to work hard.
Yeah.
It's like I always think about our father's generation that I don't ever heard them saying, I feel I don't want to go to work tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
Because my boss.
Yeah.
They will.
I'm not passionate about my job.
Yeah. It is like.
If you ask my dad if he's passionate about his job, he's like, what are you even talking about? Passion. I don't need passion. I need money for my family.
Yeah. My passion is my family. It's the people who I greet in the morning and say, love you, kids, love you, wife, and going to work. The passion is them.
Right.
And then it's like, even like today, I even got shocked with, if you talk to someone, it's like, I work in the welding company for 30 years. And then even in my brain, I'm like, 30 years every day. You wake up in the morning, pack your food, and then you go, and then all you do is weld. Yeah. That's amazing. That and then it's like to provide and and you see the pride of the father say, my kids went to college, my kids, they're this, they're this.
Yep.
He may not say, hey, I didn't watch all the games.
Yeah.
I didn't do this, but it was a different priority.
I saw a short video the other day. It's a while back now, but I believe it was Harvard, if I remember right. There was a janitor that worked there, And as long as he worked there, his kids could go to Harvard for free. They could get admittance, and they could go for free. And so he spent his entire life as a janitor in Harvard just so he could put four children through Harvard.
To Harvard, yeah.
And, was he passionate about cleaning toilets and mopping floors? No, he was passionate about, man, my kids get to go to Harvard.
Yeah.
And so he did everything. I'm like, man, that's worth honoring. Yeah. That's worth respecting.
Or you get a people who, when they turn 18, they will go to see if they were drafted to war.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm going drafted to play football or play, He was like, man, it is a different. And I'm not saying who's better. I'm saying there is a treasure in there that you would say, hey, how it feels to get your name drafted. Yeah. Remember like George and Jackson?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was those guys. Like I love to hear them. Like
he's talking about our World War II vets that have been around church.
I remember George saying 50 years Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
It's like that's amazing. It's amazing to hear stories. Yeah.
And we need those. George, Bob Cruz is still young by many standards, But what I see in him is someone who picked up the Word of God at a young age and just consistently did it every day. Yeah. And now when you talk to him, the Word of God comes out. And
every other phrase,
there's
a scripture.
We need 20-year-olds who decide, like, I'm going to pick up the Bible and I'm going to read it every day for the rest of my life. Yeah. And then you will be Bob Cruz.
Will be him.
You will be that. Yeah. But you have to start, when you're young. Yeah. And just continue faithfully through that. Yeah. Well, we probably need to wrap up, but is there anything that you would give for advice? Like, hey, how could we honor the seniors among us? How could we, contribute to caring for and loving people that are a little bit older than us?
Talking to them, it's amazing the idea of how many of them feel lonely, and I think the best would be is just coming and approaching and hearing the story, because you will see as the moment you start hearing their story, like you said, it's gonna light life out of them, and we are also gonna getting excited for hearing more, and so I think I would say. That's
ask questions.
That's ask questions. Yeah. Like, hey, when I know you were there. What I read in the book in school, like Bob, Apollo 8. It was like we saw this in movies. Yep. They are trying to do, and then he can say, hey, this is how it feels in that time. Neat.
When we did some training for trauma care for young kids. One of the things they told us is that being heard, being listened to, feels just like being loved. Yeah. That in the brain and the heart, when you just ask kid questions and just let them talk and listen to them, even if you're not saying I love you or caring for them, just listening feels to them like love.
Feels loved.
And that's true of everyone. Yeah. When just being heard can feel like being loved.
Being loved, that's true.
All right. Well, thanks, Daniel. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And guys, we will see you on Sunday. Hope you can come to one of our campuses. We have one in Kaiser and one in Turner, Salem. Yeah. Here at you're the campus pastor here at South. What are our hours on Sunday?
Oh, so we have at 8, 9:45, and 11:30.
Yeah.
So
and then at Kaiser,
3 great options.
9:45. So come and join us on Sunday. Thanks.
Thank you.